Welcome back to War Online. Welcome aboard the T-55A, the new Russian battle rating 8.3 medium/main battle tank. Now, before I ramble on about my first impressions and what I think about the tank and yada yada yada, I make something different. While I drive into battle, I, get myself a nice Bavarian beer. I'm not sure if you can hear it, but it looks good. Smells good. Yeah. Now, why is that? Why that particular intro? Why not vodka? Wouldn't it be a bit more appropriate? Well, yeah, I guess so. But, these are our first impressions. I let you down for 2 days. It had a reason. Work was pretty brutal. I'm not talking here about lazy 8-hour works or hours of work a day. No. It's like, on a good day, like today, just 11 hours. It was a bit more, it was like 11 and a half. But details. And while I cripple this Leopard, yeah, let's talk about the T-55A. This tank is amazing, but it's not flawless. I think it's amazing because how simple it drives, and I think that's a bit the meta for Russian tanks, isn't it? Simple, reliable, deadly. I got hit by something in the side. I extinguished the fire. I have no idea why this Leopard here didn't return fire and just was sitting still. Yeah, I'm driving into the cap circle, participating into the cap, aiming for the ammo rack. Booyah. Leopards are, fast tanks, maneuverable, but they just can't deal in a frontline engagement. I think the T-55A, while its armor is much like the T-54 1951, and it looks very similar to it, I guess. It also features a 100mm D10T cannon. A little bit of a different version. Yeah, I think the amazing part about this is the ammunition choice. It doesn't have too fancy ammunition. At the moment I have not even unlocked the Heat FS shell. It's a bit awkward to describe it. It is, I think, the highest tier tank to feature APHE. And when you fight Leos, just shoot somewhere and hit the tank and blow it up with one shell. With APFSDS, which is a great shell, by the way, you have to aim. As awkward as it sounds, but you don't get this just random blow-ups on enemy tanks like with the APHE. And I think, this is why I have chosen to just sit here, drink a beer, and before that play this game. So far nothing spectacular has happened, and the tank by itself features just one outstanding feature in the Soviet medium line so far for a tank that is very similar to a T-54. It has a stabilizer. The stabilizer, well, it works like on any other high tier medium tank of every nation, I guess, so far. The STB-1, the Type 74, both Leopards, both M60s, also both Chieftains, they all have stabilizer as far as I know. Correct me if I'm wrong. I haven't checked it, but as far as I can remember. And now the Russians always had to stop and aim, to just hit the enemy tank somewhere with their APHE shell. And that was a significant disadvantage, I agree. Casually just bouncing shots from the Kugelblitz and blowing him up in return. Yeah, the next feature is, many people say that the armor of those Russian medium tanks is, nothing great anymore. I disagree. First of all, everything that has a gun lower than 105mm can't interact automatically with the side armor. So I guess the threshold is 104 millimeters. How appropriate. But at this battle rating, every nation's tanks has at least a 105 millimeter L7 gun or any variant or higher, except the Russians, of course. But you know, at the end of the day, they fire sub-caliber rounds, and for the side armor, well, against heat, it does not really matter. And Hash, you know, Hash can track itself in the tracks, or not tracks, but trap itself in the tracks and do no significant damage. The front of the tank is typically Russian medium tank design, 100 millimeters at around about 60 degrees of angling. That means you still can have those trollish bounces, but most of the time, if somebody is firing Hash or heat, it will go through, and with APDS, it most likely will go through, although, you know, sometimes you have those weird bounces. So here, this is my ace, the kill on the Panther 2. At this point, you know, I'm doing the usual spawn camping because there's nothing left to do and the game is about to, you know, it is already decided, but most of the time I think it's a bit awkward. Yeah, I ignored here this Kugelblitz, he can't do anything because I saw this tier 1 key part. And I wanted to machine gun him down, but he actually had his gun shield turned around, and I had the feeling that the Kugelblitz still was on spawn protection, so I just waited for it, and he can't really do anything. I wiggled the turret, so he can't disable my gun properly. Yes, he tracked me. Yes, he destroyed both machine guns, which are still working, you know, because machine guns can't get destroyed in this game, I guess, or get out of function, so to speak. Yeah, and I'm just waiting here. I actually wanted to get out. I did a little bit of a blind shot here on this ATGM, and what you saw me doing here was holding the C key and looking around the tree. A shame it didn't work actually, but this is my 8th kill so far. You can see all the little impact holes in the front of the turret. Overall, it's very simple. The T-55A brings nothing really new to the table. You have a rather easy stock grind and fun. The only oddity is that you start with an APDS round that is somewhat more reliable than the one on the Leopard. But you know, I think the major advantage of the T-55 is that it doesn't have to face other Russian tanks. And yes, that's my standard argumentation way, but I think at the end of the day I never was really wrong with it. So, 9th kill. Yeah, 4 kills were a little bit of seal clubbing, I guess, or side shots, or just ruffle stomping the enemy. You can see here another aspect, and that is the maneuverability. But I did not have unlocked the tracks and the filters yet, so I guess the horsepower to ton ratio will raise a little bit and the ground resistance stats will improve. Yeah, neutral steering is missing, and yes, on this tank you kind of feel it. But overall, I think this tank feels a little bit like a heavy tank more in terms of its stock maneuverability, and yeah, that's a very decent description. What else have I written down? Yes, you get random bounces with APDS sometimes, even from chieftains, but I guess they just shoot at your gun mantle, which is trollish as hell. But when somebody fires Hash, that will kill you. That will definitely kill you. Except if it's the 90mm Hash, because it's a question if it penetrates in the first place, despite having 102mm of penetration. But, you know, then... yeah, also when the Hash hits the turret front, it splashes down into the ammo rack. And this ammo rack is, it looks a bit weird. It looks like a wet ammo rack from a Sherman. I guess that's a good description. Yeah, but it seems like the shells are included in the fuel tanks. Yeah, that's, I guess, also a wet ammo rack. Shells and fuel. Um, Russia, what did you do? Yeah, so the lineup is nothing special, just 43 rounds of ammunition. You should take out like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, yeah, 5 rounds to empty the turret, maybe a few more if you want to uh, survive some random penetrations by APDS that don't hit anything. Overall, the survivability is not as bad as I expected for a 4 crew member tank. But overall, yeah, the cupolas are bigger than on previous models, so they are easier to hit, just 100 millimeters when they're flat out. So I guess nobody can really complain about this tank. 8.3, I'm not quite sure why 8.3, to be honest, because even the heat shield that I honestly don't feel a need for does have 390 millimeters of penetration, so it's a bit of an improvement over the T-54 1941, I guess, where the heat shield has 380 millimeters. But details. So yeah, at least you go around the stock grind from the BR412 to the over the BR412B to finally the BR412D. But I guess it's not the 240 millimeters compared to the 215 millimeters that is the difference. It's more of the high explosive filler. But at that battle rating, the crew compartments are rather tiny, except from some big monsters like the mouse or even the M103. So those are my first impressions of the T-55A, a tank that I honestly like. It will bring back fresh flavor for the Russians while still remaining some of the old traditional reliably weaponry. It's not a game breaker, it's a nice addition to the game, that's all I'm saying. If you think that you really like Soviet tanks, go for this tank, it serves you well. But on the other hand, I think if you want to have an end of the line tank, the T10M serves you a little bit better. Because while you have 2 not very good tanks anymore previously, you just have 2 tanks in front of the T10M and not 4 like the T-55A. I think this is one of the longest medium lines at tier 5 at the moment, including the Americans with their 3 Patents and 2 M60s, which is one of the worst stock grinds overall, I guess. Then there are also the Germans, yeah, they have just 2 Leopards. Same with the Japanese STB-1 and Type 74. The British currently are catching up a little bit. The line now includes 2 chieftains, which when they're hulled down are a bit ugly because I mostly drive nowadays with the APHE, and I think that's fine. APHE, it just does the job in times where people think, yeah, it's you know, armor isn't important anymore in real life. Yeah, they didn't have to grind heat FS, did they? Yeah. So yeah, that's the T-55A for you. A tank that I like. I will certainly give you a tank review within a few days. But I want to unlock some of the modules myself. I want to just talk a little bit about the upgrade way, which is, you know, long, but, you know, not disastrously bad. At the end of the day, that's it for me today. Give this video a like if you did, subscribe if you want to see more, and we'll see each other on the battlefields of War Thunder.